The former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, revealed startling new details about his life in prison in his first interview from behind bars. Blagojevich was sentenced to 14 years in prison for various corruption charges, including trying to benefit from naming Barack Obama's replacement in the United States Senate after Obama's 2008 presidential win. David Bernstein is a reporter for Chicago magazine and spoke to a visibly older Blagojevich about life in prison. The former Illinois governor spoke about everything from his new job, sweeping 2 floors, getting letters from people on the outside, and the welcome gift that prisoners got for him. Blagojevich still claims he's innocent and never crossed any lines. David,
you got it.
Tell me what was your takeaway? What were the headlines of what Rod told you?
Oh man, where to begin? That prison is not club fed. He's a guy who started with not a lot. He grew up in a lower middle class, tough Chicago neighborhood, and he grew up to be governor of the 5th largest state and had a tremendous fall. So it's been a struggle for him, and the big takeaway is that you would think a guy who is this sort of natural politician who knows how to work a room like a pro would be just kind of very at ease and be the life of the party around prison, but he's very much a loner.
He has power and influence. He had a security detail, and now he has, I suppose, security keeping him inside a prison. Do you think do you think the adjustment is harder for him than it would be and is for other people?
I think so. I mean, when you've gotten used to all the trappings of being a very powerful political figure, going from your life is no longer your own, so to speak, where you're on schedules that are not your own. Rod likes to joke. He's currently an orderly, is his prison job, and he makes $8.40 a month. And he says that he made more when he was 9 years old shining shoes on the streets of Chicago. So this is after becoming, governor, having a law degree, being a congressman. So it's quite a fall.
He got 14 years. What does he think to that sentence? Did you talk about that?
Oh, yeah. He thinks it's incredibly unjust that he was wrongfully accused, that he was not only that he received a much harsher sentence than other politicians who have done way worse. One of the things that Rod does is he sort of distinguishes and I think he makes a fair point. His crimes all involve campaign contributions, which is very rare. He claims to be the only governor who has ever served prison time for just campaign fundraising offenses. Normally, politicians like to stuff their pockets with cash and that sort of thing. So he feels very wronged, and he tells me the story. He told me the story about his one of his first couple days there, and he met with his guidance counselor or whatever at the prison, and she was looking over his file, and she said, "Well, I think I've got some good news for you. You'll get out at Christmas 2023, and he was only days into his sentence, and this is 2012, mind you, and so just the magnitude of the time just really hit him like a punch to the gut.
He's been in prison, David, around 5 years now. Does he look visibly different?
Yes and no. Yeah, he looks great. His hair has turned gray. His famous mop of hair has turned gray, but he's in. He says he's in fighter shape. So he used to be a Golden Gloves, amateur boxer, and he's really chiseled. His wife Patty says that he's got a 6-pack, that he's really just in terrific shape, and so physically he looks amazing. But I think he's really struggling with being away from his family. He feels very much like he was wronged, and that he is hoping to be vindicated.
Is there anything about prison that has surprised him or touched him?
That's one of the questions I asked him, and what has surprised him the most. And he said he would get back to me and never did. But one of the things that has touched him is he's really found that prisoners, there are some men who are in the prison with him who have done some really terrible crimes. bank robbery, murder, those things. And he's really said that he's found that not everybody is bad. That he's found, that some of these people are good people who have done terrible mistakes. And one of the ironies is he was a governor who pardoned very few people while he was governor. And he says that was one of his, like, if he could, do it over again now that he's learned what he's done, what he's learned in hindsight, that he would really look at some of these cases and be, he understands now how harsh some of these prison sentences are and how some of these people have really paid really terrible prices for making bad mistakes.
Isn't that interesting? Did you have sympathy for him?
That's a good question. Yes and no. I mean, I was, when Governor Blagojevich was governor, I was a pretty harsh critic of him. I wrote a pretty scathing feature on him. I was not a fan of him as governor, and still in many ways not a fan. But it's, I think if anybody, I have empathy for his family members as much, more than Rod. Although I do sympathize with him a little bit. Now that I've had a little time to look a little bit more into his legal case, there were he got some bad breaks. And I do wonder now, 5 years later, whether the punishment fits the crime. But I feel bad, I'm a father of 2 daughters myself, and I can really understand, how difficult it is being away from them.
Is he popular in prison?
Yeah, he is actually, but not in a, he mostly stays, to himself. But he knows a lot of people, and he's very friendly, and a lot of people come to him for mentoring and that sort of thing. When he was being resentenced here in court, he had over 100 inmates write letters 100 inmates wrote letters on his behalf, telling him about the things that they, how Rod has helped them with, get their GEDs and, really prepare for job interviews and that sort of thing. But he mostly keeps to himself. I mean, he really is focused on self-improvement, on sort of making the best of the worst situation. And that means really sort of reading and writing. It means, exercising. He has very, goals for himself that he tries to meet in his exercise, and he's become a lot more religious in prison.
Interesting. David, that was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.